Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 303rd episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So this is one of the handful of golden age hip-hop LPs in this set that I've been super excited to finally get to, because most of them are acts that have yet to make an appearance on the page, and that's the case with the absolutely iconic group we're discussing today, Salt-N-Pepa. This is one of those artists that I think a good amount of people may assume is a duo, since the initial founding members were Cheryl James, aka Salt, and Sandra Denton, aka Peppa. But maybe it was just a dumb assumption I had made personally before delving into their music when I was younger. Mainly because I think the name scheme always reminded me of acts like Kid and Play or Nice and Smooth, who famously are duos. As is virtually any other set of rappers that has the name scheme of someone and someone. But I digress. That third member who accompanied Salt-N-Pepa was the legendary DJ Spinderella, and together the three would break down barriers for women in the genre and tackle some of the misogynistic themes beginning to arise in hip-hop at this time. They also would build a respectable discography that would start with 1986's Hot, Cool, and Vicious, an LP that included songs like The Showstopper, which was actually a response to the Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh song The Show, as well as the smash hit Push It. And these extremely well-known, iconic, and catchy singles would become a staple within Salt-N-Pepa's output, with pretty much every full-length release having at least one or two. Their sophomore studio LP was 1988's Assault with a Deadly Peppa, and while there's definitely still some bops on it, I think the group would really find their footing with the third and following project, which is the focus of today's review, 1990's Black's Magic. This may actually be my favorite record in their discography, but it's one of those cases where it can almost alternate depending on when you ask me, because you could without a doubt make the argument that their fourth album, 1993's Very Necessary, is their best. As a matter of fact, I feel like there's probably a decent amount of fans who prefer that LP to the one we're discussing here, so I'd love to hear in the comments below which Salt-N-Pepa album you enjoyed the most. They did have one more final album in 1997 with Brand New, and while it doesn't quite live up to the hype that they'd set with their previous work, the production and overall mix is extremely clean and polished. But back to the album at hand, one thing I love about Black's Magic here is how they incorporate singing per usual, but it's perfectly balanced with the rapping and never really takes precedence over it, considering the vast majority of the tracks feature nothing but the two skilled MCs going back and forth with killer bars. I said earlier how Salt-N-Pepa had at least one big hit single on every LP, and you better believe that's still the case with this thing, because Let's Talk About Sex very well may be the most iconic and well-known song they have to their name, and it's a stellar example of how the girls were able to confront issues like gender relations and sexuality in an honest and upfront way, while still managing to rap their asses off, and create amazing hooks that get cemented in pop culture for decades. I also really quickly have to point out, this thing pretty easily has the best cover art out of all the other choices from the trio's output. Plus there's also some pretty top tier production on Black's Magic, with my favorite beat showing up on the track Doper Than Dope, where they sampled the extremely recognizable Nautilus by Bob James, which is arguably the single most prolific song to ever be used in hip-hop. That's hardly an exaggeration either when you realize this thing's been sampled over 400 times, with just some of the other heavy hitters that utilized it being Children's Story by Slick Rick, Follow the Leader by Eric B. and Rakim, Beats to the Rhyme by Run DMC, Live at the Barbecue by Main Source, Daytona 500 by Ghostface Killah, Clap Ya Hands by A Tribe Called Quest, My Mind Spray by Jeru the Damaja, Hawk Blood by Danny Brown, Stray Bullet by Organized Confusion, Brothers on My Jock by EPMD, Black Vagina Finda by Onyx, and a couple of the tracks off Big L's Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. That's literally just the tip of the iceberg, but it goes to show how diverse and expansive hip-hop is, because there's virtually no two instrumentals that sound the same out of all the ones I just listed, even though they are all built around the same reference material. And it's not like Nautilus is some 20-minute epic with a ton of different parts. And it's so inspiring to me that hundreds of producers over multiple decades heard the same song and wanted to flip it, yet somehow they pretty much all managed to walk away with different, totally unique results. There once again aren't any featured artists to discuss here, which, as you may have noticed, is a bit of a pattern when it comes to most hip-hop albums from 1990 or earlier. However, there are a good amount of producers who came together to make these awesome instrumentals, including names like Excalibur, Herbie Lovebug, The Invincibles, Quicksilver, Stevie O, The Boy Wonder, as well as Salt and DJ Spinderella themselves. When it comes to the tracks I want to recommend as honorable mentions for Black's Magic, I'm going to shout out songs like Expression, Do You Want Me, Swift, I Don't Know, Live and Let Die, Independent, and the title track. Then for my overall top 3 favorites, I would have to go with Doper Than Dope, Negro with an Ego, and Let's Talk About Sex. Thank you for watching my 303rd video. Next time we're going pretty far in the opposite direction to the type of LP that ironically I'd assume Salt-N-Pepa weren't the hugest fans of at the time. So look for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite tracks are off this forward-thinking project. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.